everyone. Welcome back. And thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren, and I'm joined today by DJ the Money Coach, a distinguished professional speaker, certified estate advisor, and charter senior financial planner. In 1997, DJ founded Duransburg International, DI, a professional sponsor of the Learning Institute for Financial Education, LIFE. DI's team of expert instructors specializes in financial education, wealth accumulation, asset protection, and small business planning for middle-class America. In addition to his educational efforts, DJ owns a resort in Zanzibar that supports the African economy. He's also author of The ABCs of Wealth, a common sense strategy for achieving the American dream. The Chicago native and Columbia College graduate is committed to delivering exceptional value to his audiences by teaching them how to achieve financial independence through debt elimination, early retirement, and building passive income streams. Thanks for joining me, DJ.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be on your esteemed show. I'm excited.
I am too. And our goal for today, as it always is to make adulting easier for listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So today, DJ, I think we're going to cover a lot of topics, as we can tell from your bio, but I want to start here. How did you become DJ the Money Coach?
You know what, Lauren, that is a great question. So real quickly, I played baseball in college and also was a baseball coach to my children for 12 years. So I used to be called Coach DJ. In addition to that, I was in the financial industry. So about 14, 15 years ago, I said, you know what? That's a good moniker, DJ. And why not put DJ the Money Coach together and make that a win-win? So that's how I became DJ the Money Coach about 14, 15 years ago.
And why are you passionate about money?
Well, it's a personal story, Lauren, twofold. Number one, my mother was a victim of predatory lending in the mortgage industry back in the mid-90s. And my mother also was a victim of identity theft. And then me personally, I went to college, signed up for a whole bunch of credit cards, not knowing the responsibility of it because I never was taught financial literacy. So I actually found myself when I got out of college with $60,000 worth of consumable debt and a 525 credit score. And the only reason why I knew that, Lauren, is because I had a professional job and actually got turned down for a mortgage. And that was kind of deflating, but it didn't really, kill me or stop me. But what really deflated me and almost knocked me out is about 5 years later, I had started my first business and I went back to the same bank to get a small business loan and they turned me down when it was very critical to keep my business moving forward. So I asked the underwriter, I said, how is it that I have significant money in your account? My business is almost doing $500,000. Why am I being turned down? And he just looked at me, he said, DJ, do you not know this? He said, you have a 525 credit score and you have $60,000 in personal debt, and we just don't lend money to people like that. So at that point, Lauren, I had two options. I could play victim or I can figure out why I was in that position. And I have an accounting background. This is the irony of it. I was doing P&Ls for small businesses. I could tell you everything about P&Ls, general ledgers, amortization, but I knew nothing about personal finance. So I actually used to be an advocate of public broadcast system, and Susie Orman used to always be on the show. So I'm dating myself. This is pre-internet. This is back in the mid-90s. So I got her package, and she had a book that was called The Road to Wealth. And all I did, Lauren, is read the chapter on personal finance. And when I read that chapter, since the internet wasn't robust, I literally had to go to the library and get these other tools and start working with them. And in 12 months, I actually turned my 525 credit score to 700 in the what I would call the analog world. And in 24 months, I went to 800. And within 5 years, I paid off all the debt. I did not file bankruptcy. And at that point, I had a light bulb moment, Lauren, because I was watching the show 2020 with Barbara Walters, and she had a interview series with professionals that were in the same situation I was. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, they had hundreds of thousands of consumable debt, and they felt embarrassed about it. And I knew right there that was a professional problem that nobody wanted to talk about, and I knew I could create a niche.
So do you need to be passionate about personal finance to turn your personal finances around and become wealthy?
No, because it's scientific. So that's a great question. But for me, as an advocate to helping people, you do have to be passionate about it. But if you are an individual, it's just like a math equation. 5 times 5 is always going to be 25, Lauren. So if somebody showed you the actual science behind it, you can just apply it. And you only have to have 4 things. And what I call number 1, discipline. Number 2, accountability. Number 3, have a proven system that you can plug into, Lauren. And number 4, do the work for 2 to 5 years and don't try to negotiate the success.
What does negotiate success mean?
That means when a person says, man, I got $60,000 worth of, consumable debt. I don't want to take 5 years to pay this off. Let me file bankruptcy
Oh,
and
yeah.
screw myself for 7 years because I want the quick fix. But you don't realize it took you 5, 7 years to get this in this situation. So now you're negotiating the price because you want the quick fix the way we are in America today.
A lot of times when people are in a tough financial spot or even just a neutral financial spot, but just want to get better or become wealthy, build wealth, we hear about budgeting and people need to budget. What are your thoughts on budgeting?
Oh, that's number 1. Guess what? Jeff Bezos has a budget. Elon has a budget. Zuckerberg has a budget. It's bigger than yours and mine, but the reality is they have a budget. So one of the things we teach in a course that I created called Family Finance 101, I actually created in 2006, is the first thing is you have to have a financial analytical report done on you as a person. And then you have to treat your personal finances, Lauren, like the way businesses do with checks and balances. And the first thing is a budget. I literally have in a complimentary session that people engage with us is a quick 10 questionnaire and then a budget that they have to put all their expenditures on for me to sit down with them. If they don't, it's just like going to the doctor. If you don't want the doctor to do his or her job right, then don't go to the appointment. That's the first thing. So once you get that budget, now we look at all what I call the hidden little foxes, Lauren, that you or don't realize you're overspending. What do I mean? Bottled water. Here's the reality. Some people like Fiji, some people like, all these fancy waters. They're all pretty much the same, but the cost is higher. So if I get the Fiji bottle, not picking on Fiji, I actually been there, but if that bottle is $5 and I'm in the deficit and I don't see the reality going to the dollar store to get that same bottle of water for $1, then that $4 you think ain't no big deal. But if you're doing that every day, that's $4 times 30. That's $120. Now, mind you, when I was young, guess what? I used to eat out every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner as a single person. I was spending $30 to $50 a day, but I made 60, 70,000, so it wasn't no big deal. But when I added up at the end of the month, Lauren, $900 to $1,200. That's what I'm talking about, negotiating the price of success. So that budget identifies it. So if you're really serious about being accountable for how you got there and want to have a sustainable long-time retirement, then you will address those matters. You'll stop getting the Fiji water and you'll get the $1 bottled water, and then you'll take that money and attack your debt instead of filing bankruptcy and passing on society.
So devil's advocate here. That sounds like a lot of work, DJ.
Well, actually, it's not. We have a system that actually you can do that in 30 minutes. It's literally the form gets to you and, oh, my insurance bill is this, my gas bill is that, my utility, and then it kicks out and tells you what the gaps are and gives you a solution that if you can apply, Lauren, 1 hour a week, you can get this done if it's important to you.
It has to be important. And I like the water bottle example here that you're talking about, because you're not talking about you can't have bottled water. You're
Right.
talking about maybe you need some different bottled water. I'm not telling you you can't watch TV. I'm telling you maybe you can't have 10 subscription services. I'm not telling you you can't have a car. You just can't have that car. Right. And that's really important.
Exactly. And a lot of times people don't realize it actually still tastes the same. I mean, at the end of the day, but the reality is this, it doesn't matter if you're in $60,000 worth of debt or $1,000. The reality is you have to address it. It's like what they say in Alcoholic Anonymous. The first thing we have to admit that we have a problem. So don't go to the bar. But if you're not serious, there's nothing I can do. There's a saying, Lauren, a woman convinced against her will is unchanged. So, and there's only 3 ways we change in the world. So first way is through the absolute pain, but you'll fix it, but you'll go back like a yo-yo. The second, we intellectualize it, Lauren, where we learn so much that we, oh yeah, that makes sense intelligently. So it lasts a little bit longer. But the permanent change is inspiration. And when you are inspired, you change your paradigm and you change your life. And that's the difference.
What do you say to students that are having trouble getting inspired to change their personal finances? Maybe they understand on like a general level, I'm not in a good spot. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not going to be able to retire, but they're having trouble getting over that hump?
Here's what I tell them, Lauren. I said, there's only two things you need to really be concerned with that you can't get over: bad health and, you doing something illegal. I said, other than that, everything is achievable. And I said, guess what? If I can overcome my situation, your situation is probably less as hard as mine was. But the reality is, at one point in time, do you get serious about your life? So what I always ask people, Lauren, is for you to engage with us at our company. I said, do you give us permission to tell you what you need to know, or do you want us to tell you what you want to hear? And if they say, we want you to tell us what we want to hear, we'll say, you know what? Let us refer you to somebody else, because we are not going to sugarcoat where you are. But the reality is, just like going to the doctor, the doctor tells you you have a life-threatening situation, but it can be reversed. Like pre-diabetes. You know how you can reverse that, Lauren? Stop consuming sugar, stop eating late at night, rest more, consume more water so you don't get dehydrated. How do I know? Because I had that about 36 months ago. I changed my habits, everything reversed. I started exercising, it got better. But the reality is, until they're willing to be accountable, Lauren, we can't help them. And in today's society, everybody is getting a pass and everybody wants everything easy, and that's not sustainable. That's a short fix. That's the microwave. We got to bake it in the oven.
Are a lot of your students dealing with student loans?
Oh my goodness. 75% of them. And the student loans are bigger than they ever been. I literally just sat down with a doctor that had $450,000 worth of student loans. And I said to myself, I said to her, she was about 38 years of age. I said, at what point did you not know that this debt that you're taking on is larger than a house payment? And at what point did you not know you're not guaranteed, even though you're going to have an MD, to make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year? I said, at some point in time, you had to understand it. And I said, this is the importance of financial literacy. Why is it that in our institutions, we don't teach financial literacy? Because here's the reality: the top 1%, they don't want you to know. So you'll stay in that, grind and always be on that treadmill. So in those people that have student loans, we sit down and we say, hey, here's the option. And one of the bad things that happened, Lauren, is that when the pandemic happened, people were able to defer their loans, but they didn't understand that the accrued interest was not deferred. And some people, Lauren, who could still afford to make the payment and didn't get affected with losing their job, I had to sit down and show them, hey, nobody does nothing for free as it pertains to businesses. Why is the student loan the only debt that you cannot eliminate through bankruptcy?
No collateral?
Yep.
Yeah. So I hated that they allowed people to stop their student loans, because for a lot of different reasons. One of the main ones was, let's say your student loan payment, and this would probably be a very palatable one, is like $300. You stop paying that, you up your lifestyle $300 naturally, because that's basically human nature to do that. Then it comes back and you don't have it anymore. Right? I hated that. God, I hated that.
Exactly. That is the biggest trick in the game. And one thing we learned, I spent some time in the car business, and our general manager, his name was Nick Kennedy. He said, hey, the best way to get somebody to buy something for you, give them a payment that's within their comfort zone. He said, but if you tell them that it's going to be 35,000 and that's the payment, oh no. But if you say, hey, you know what, Lauren, I can get you into this $35,000 car for only $250 a month for 40 months. You say, where do I sign, DJ? But you still
Not
bought
me. Not
that
me, but somebody
$30,000.
would. Yeah. So speaking of quick fixes,
Mm-hmm.
the student loan forgiveness thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, honestly, I am a proponent for the student loan forgiveness for this reason, because other countries don't pay for secondary education, and that puts us at a disadvantage. And for the millennials, they have more debt that they're taking on than the prior generation. So, and since they don't have financial literacy, they don't realize that, hey, I'm going to come out with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 debt, and immediately you get a job, that payment starts to be due. So you're at a disadvantage unless you come from a home that actually paid for your college education, took care of the primary things. You're not even able to sustain the lifestyle or live in the community that your parents brought you up in. So I
Oh,
have no
yeah.
problem with debt forgiveness on that particular loan, because if you can file bankruptcy like Trump or any other business owner can do when they borrow millions of dollars from the government, why shouldn't you be able to have some forgiveness one time? Not multiple, but one time.
Yeah. And I don't think the millennials knew what they were getting into.
Oh,
truly.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. They
Do you,
had no idea. We barely knew what was going on, and they had no clue. And now the reality is that they don't have pensions that they can actually,
no.
have because we don't live in that world anymore. That world is gone.
So I'm glad you brought up cars too. I want to talk about student loans. I want to talk about auto loans. The average new car payment in the United States is over $700. How did that become normal? How do we stop that from being normal?
Well, again, here's the thing. My parents and probably your parents, they saved up and they made a major purchase like that.
Yeah.
Again, we are trying to keep up with the Joneses. We're trying to keep up with the Bezos and stuff like that. So again, here's the trap of the banking institution. They will give you loans that don't make you wealth so you can be trapped in the consumer hole for the rest of your life. So if you get customized to think that, hey, $700 is not a lot of money, you will continue to do that. At some point in time, you have to have reality to say, hey, I'm giving away my future to get this car that really after 30, 45 days is going to be worth 30% less than what I bought it for. Regardless if it's new off the lot or you bought it pre-driven, these are the realities. So again, how do we, correct that? We start bringing financial literacy back into the school system. And I mean back in at 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds, because here's my belief. I have 4 children. If you can learn how to play the violin, if you can learn how to throw a football, hit a baseball, you can learn about money because it's just the same concept. And kids actually love that. They play Monopoly, they play cash flow for kids, but we don't want them to know that because, again, we need to have them trapped in this treadmill so that the top 1% can enjoy their lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that, but it should be an equal and level playing field at the end of the day. So I literally had a client about 18 months ago. She had $1,000 car note, and she was only making like $50,000 a year. And I said, you understand, after taxes, your take home is about $3,200, and your car payment without your insurance is already a third of that. I said, how did you, you know, justify that? And she said, I really didn't think about it. My car broke down, and this was the options they offered me, and this car right here was the one I always wanted.
So the biggest divisive topic in the personal finance world, I feel like, is your primary residence. Is it an investment? Is it not an investment? Should you pay it off? Should you not pay it off? What are your thoughts on that? What do you teach when it comes to your primary home?
Well, first and foremost, I subscribe to two principles and two philosophies. Number one, you do have to be debt free if you want to have a American, retirement. But if you are an entrepreneur, you have to understand what debt consumer means as far as business credit. So for me, for the general person that's listening to this amazing show, I do teach immediately get out of debt first. I do teach pay off your home in 7 to 15 years. I used to also be a minority owner in a mortgage bank from 2006 to 2010. So I actually know how the APR rates and everything work. I know how accrued interest works, Lauren. For instance, if you don't know that accrued interest doesn't compound until after the 12th business day of the beginning of the month, you can actually cut payments into 2 payments, which if people don't understand how that math works, and actually create an extra payment and drop 3 years off a 30-year, mortgage. But here's the big trap as it pertains to paying off mortgage debt. If you refinance your house because rates have gone up, let's say you bought your house, Lauren, it's 2024, you bought it in 2014. You're making all the payments. And now all of a sudden the rates drop down in the pandemic, which they did down to 2% for A-plus buyers like myself. You get excited that you had $1,000 payment, but they can offer you $500 payment. Here's the big mistake they make. You know what that is? What do you think it is? $1,000 payment, $500 payment. You've been paying on the mortgage for 10 years. You're going to refinance it. What do you think the biggest mistake that they make?
Keeping the same payment? Upping it?
Nope. They go back into the same 30-year term and they
Right,
get back
right.
all that equity and interest. So what
Yeah.
we teach them how to do, Lauren, yes, take the $500 payment. Better yet, if you could easily afford the $1,000 payment, go into a 15-year mortgage, add one extra principal, and you'll pay that house off in 7 years. It's all math.
And the
So,
importance of doing that is freeing up that cash every month to what? Invest or save or just retire.
so first thing is invest. Make sure you cover all the basics. Emergency fund, Roth IRA, and then have your annuity and proper insurance. The second thing is now what I teach people how to do is to buy one hard asset per year that will generate at least $250 a month in net passive income. So over the course of 2 to 5 years, if you do that, you will actually end up having $8,333 a month in passive income, and you will pay down all your consumer debt, your house and your car, and then you can ease into retirement and don't have to worry or count on anything like Social Security. And it's a basic math equation, and it's real simple. But the question is, are you willing to work for the freedom?
And that's $100,000 a year, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's $100,000 a year. So here's what I found, Lauren, after I literally have sat down with over 45,000 people individually since 2006. And I've worked with Chase Bank, I've worked with the YMCA, the Federal Reserve. So I've seen everything. And after the 10,000 person, Lauren, I looked at what the numbers are for middle class America. The average middle class family in America house is valued at about $375,000. Their expenses and everything turn out to be about $4,500 to $5,000, depends on what coast they live on. If you take $8,333 and you attack all of these things, vacation, school, cars, you still, even attributing to a emergency fund and retirement, you'll have about $1,000 left over that you can play with if you do it the proper way. And for inflation and taxation, because I hear your audience, well, DJ, I live in California. Okay, well, we'll just up that to $10,000. And if you live on the East Coast and, Connecticut, where the hedge fund people are, 12,000. But it all ends up being the same because it's relative to your income and your intelligence.
And it's a math equation.
That's all it is.
So you mentioned insurance. What kind of insurance should people have?
Well, that's a loaded question, but I will tell you this. I am a licensed insurance professional, have been for 15 years, and there are about 7 different types of insurance policies. So the first thing you should do for pure protection, depending on your age, your income, and your health and your credit score. Pure protection, term first, if you don't have a lot of assets. Matter of fact, Lauren, if you're young between the age of 18 to 40 and you have excellent credit, excellent health, there's a thing called return on premium, which is a term policy that you actually get all the money back at the end of the term if you're still with us, just like an annuity. And you can use it as collateral. The second one, you would look into a form of some universal life, either a variable universal life policy if you start having assets, okay? And then the third one, if you have significant amount of assets and you want to cover estate, transfer and taxes and not pay that, then you look into some form of whole life policy. But the most important question, Lauren, that nobody ever knows to ask is, how is the proper way to buy that insurance, DJ? I thought you never asked, Lauren. So let me ask you this question, Lauren. When you go to the gas station, what is the unit of measurement that you buy gas by?
Gallons.
And you check the price of the gallon depending on which one has the best price and quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go into the grocery store, what's the unit of measure that you buy bread by?
Loaf.
Which is 16 ounces. So do you know in the insurance industry, this is for home, health, auto, and life, there's a thing called cost per thousand. What that means is, Lauren, if you and I are the same age, same credit score, we buy the units by every $1,000. Let me show you how simple that is. I have one policy that's $500,000. So if I take 1,000 divided into 500,000, that's 500 units. If I take my premium, which is $30 a month, times that by 12, that's 360. Divide that 360 by 500 units, I pay 72 cents per 1,000. That is 10 times less than the average person pays for their insurance. And 9 out of 10 times, insurance agents don't know that. So what you should ask them when everything's equal, hey, Lauren, what is my cost per 1,000 on this policy? Just like you ask them, what's my interest rate? Since I'm an A buyer, I shouldn't be paying C rates. I should be paying A rates. And once you know that, you can get 10 times more value for home, auto, and health insurance, but you need to know to ask the right question.
What about disability?
Disability, everybody who's a entrepreneur should have disability insurance, and every person that works for a company should have deferred comp. And the one thing they should do is have an evaluation during an open enrollment, because we do that with Fortune 500 companies, and have an individual advocate, not the custodian over the relationship, not the person who handles the retirement funds, but an individual has nothing to gain by you getting the right product and service, and make sure they go over everything, checks and balances, is what we do for Fortune 500 companies. That's a great question. And a lot of times people look at the cost. Well, man, that's an additional $75 a month. But you know what? If that $75 a month, when you get to a position which you don't know what happened, helps you, that's a good thing. And plus, that can actually be rolled into retirement, which a lot of people don't know because they don't know the laws. They don't know how finances really work.
So speaking of retirement, what do you think about retiring early? Are people still talking about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think retiring early is a great thing. And when they say retirement, we don't mean sit at home and watch TV and eat bonbons. We mean actually do what God called you to do and live your life to the max. So I believe if you're starting out, let's say at 25, you should apply these principles of success and say, what do I want to be at 35, 40? And if I'm looking at it reasonably and I'm willing to do the hard work up front, I can have that retirement and do whatever I want. Now, let's say somebody's listening to that and they're in my age group in their 50s. And they're saying, well, hey, that sounds all good, DJ, but I amassed all this debt and everything. I said, well, guess what? If you're in your 50s, how about you look at a, goalpost of 67 or 62? Because really, in all reality, Lauren, most of their debt is generally their home, because they refinance or they have credit cards. And a lot of that is achievable once you get into a system that holds you accountable and you're willing to do the work. I have not found anybody, seriously. I've had people that had $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 worth of debt that had incomes from 75 to a quarter, million. That once they got on the plan and start making those small corrections, they actually found themselves completely out of debt in 5 to 7 years. People who had no money, they actually found themselves getting out of the rat race quicker, like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, because they don't amass unnecessary debt. So personal freedom and retirement at an early age, 100%, I'm a proponent of that, and I'm actually have done that for myself. I got totally debt free, and I got out of the rat race in 2008. And I've had a heavy 6-figure income and a 7-figure net worth ever since, but I had to work my way to that. And then I began helping other people to do the same thing. I have never had to have my children see me have them in a day prison, or never not see their dad or their mom not available to go to all their events. And we don't live, an opulent lifestyle. We live just like the regular person next door, but we have managed the situation so we can make ourselves available to do the things that are most important. Because your family, your friends, and if you ever have children, they're not going to be concerned about you being a multimillionaire if you miss the recital.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I would say here's the important thing is, number one, there's a thing called the Hedgehog Concept, Lauren, and this is created by Jim Collins, who wrote the great book called Good to Great. Find out what your passion is or your skill you have to make significant income in America or in this world. Number two, find out what the niche is that you can do better than anyone. And then number three, show and find out a way to get it in front of folks so that you can make yourself available to them. So what I was able to do is, when I got myself out of debt, I was passionate about finances because I had a personal experience. But then I developed the skills to get the licenses and the accreditations to do the work. And then when it pertained to the middle class, Lauren, I actually focused on working with professional middle class that had the same challenges I had. And I showed them a roadmap of how to get free in 2 to 5 years. And then as far as the third one is, I put myself in front of amazing shows like yourselves and other organizations and allow them to ask me any question under the sun. And I told them, Lauren, if I can't answer the question, I have a team of 7 professionals that run businesses that have been in work for 7 to 15 years. And we can ask anything to get them a solution to their problem, because nothing's unachievable if you have your health and you have the willpower to do it. That's what I would live. And they should have plenty of money and peace of mind, which we call the pom-pom lifestyle.
Why don't you let people know how to get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. We'll give them a couple of different ways. In the analog world, believe it or not, Lauren, people still call our telephone. So they can call us at 866-395-3042, 866-395-3042. They can reach us on YouTube at DJ the Money Coach, on Instagram at DJ the Money Coach, and on our website at djthemoneycoach.com. And we'll be more than happy to help them in any capacity that they want. And we work with individuals, small businesses, and the goal is to consumer debt free, pay off your house in 7 to 15 years, and then earn $8,333 a month and passive income and live the life that God actually wants you to live.
All right. I just took that down. I'll put that in the show notes. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy, Instagram at Adulting is Easy Real, YouTube at Adulting is Easy. If you like this episode, you'll also like episode 120. Go to the investing gym, but don't get an investing tattoo. Or 156, financial independence doesn't have to be extreme. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, DJ and I have made adulting a little easier for you.